Good morning. Welcome to my channel. My name is Vitali. If you're new, welcome, and it's great to have you. So, just wanted to um, share another video about just think for yourself. There's the crowd, and then do you follow that crowd, or do you know who you are? Do you know um, what it is that you want, right? That could be kind of a loaded statement or a loaded question. What do you want, right? It could be a ultimate selfish, like, what do I want, right? Very depraved potentially, right? But it also is potentially, hopefully, is a quiet confidence of, I know who I am, and I know what um, I'm capable of, and I know what I want, and this is what I'm after. Here's the crowd. And are you with the crowd, or are you here? So I'm going to give you a couple of real examples. So um, everybody's told, you got to go to college, you got to get your degree, right? That's the success to, or that's the recipe for success in America. So I came from Ukraine in 1989. I was 12 years old, and very early on, I knew I would be in that I wanted to be in business. I wanted to run my own company, right? I think I was in my, maybe 14, 15, very early on, and I was getting, you'd read in the back of a magazine where there's some kind of a business kit you could do. And I was trying to figure out everything. I had a subscription to Entrepreneur Magazine and just trying to learn and to figure out. Well, done with high school, and of course, the next thing is college, and you got to go there because that's what everybody does. So I did, and I spent, um, yeah, it's kind of a running joke, but I spent 3 months, three, spent 3 months in college, and I said, what am I doing here? I remember this class. It was called CFA, Creativity and the Fine Arts. And so it was really all about performing arts, and we were going to plays, and we were doing um, that. And nothing against plays, and I've gotten to a few, recently, and they're okay, but they're not me. They're not who I am. In fact, it's far from who I am. And so I was really having kind of a crisis of, like, why am I doing this? So this is, I think, 1997, and at that time, the college I was at was a private Christian college, and it was going to cost my parents um, somewhere around 20,000 a year to attend. And I kind of thought, boy, um, I can't do this. So that was it. That was done. And so I decided I'm going to go work, and then I'll figure things out. And so I ended up going and working for a small business, ended up connecting with the owner, and through, just a series of events, ended up doing a partnership together, and was able to learn what running a business is, which is really what I wanted. The college track was, I think it was like business administration. Maybe that was the official degree that I would have gotten, which wasn't really like entrepreneurship or I think now they have entrepreneurship programs in many of the colleges, but there wasn't one available. It was really more like how to run a office, in a sense, right? And so the path I took, which I, God led me on that path, right? Ultimately, when I look at things that way, but The path I took was not the path of the crowd, right? In fact, um, there were some uncomfortable years with my parents because I was still living at home, really trying to keep me from ruining my life, according to them, right? Because like all my peers were on this track over here and they were well on their way, and like I'm wasting my time doing silly things. But the way I look at it now, really, it was sort of an apprenticeship without being called that, right? So apprenticeships used to be, uh, pretty big deal, and I think they're still there now, obviously with the trades. So you would go work for a guy, let's say a plumber, and while you're working for him, you're learning how that whole thing works, and eventually you become a full-fledged plumber or um, carpenter, whatever that would have been in the trades, all the different things. And so it's not a formal, like you sit in classrooms and learn type education, but it's more of a hands-on education. It's a little bit shorter. So that was my track. And so why am I telling you all this? Well, I'm telling you this is because I think um, following the crowd is a trap to a degree. God has made each of us as individuals, and He has gifted us individually, and our giftings are different. So I'm not putting down the path of higher education and college, right? I think number one, you have to know why you're going. So I do think that it's a mistake to go to a 4-year college if you don't really have a plan of why you're doing it, right? If you want to become a nurse and you know you've got to go through that education to become a nurse, great, right? Because we need nurses and nurses make good money. It's a good career path. But if you're going, you're like, man, I'm just gonna figure this out. I have no idea. Like, I don't know what I want to do. Yeah, I would probably tell you not to go and to first figure out why you're going to go, right? So if you know that you like a certain career path or a certain job that you want to have, but I would also encourage you to think about working for yourself. America is really built on small business people, which are, you know, they are the plumbers, the carpenters, the whatever it is, right? It's the guy that's going out and working for himself, and vast majority of those people are not wealthy, like as someone who's the head of Meta or the head of Google and whatever, right? Whatever big company you pick. But even Amazon and Jeff Bezos, they started with a small business that started in a garage. So there's risk, of course, and that can be a little bit scary. Um, but the thing is, the younger you are, the less risk you have, right? Because I think that's the challenge. People get into a job and then they've got a family, they've got mortgage, they've got all these things that all these obligations that they got to pay for. And so it's very difficult then to take a risk, right? Whereas if you're younger, it isn't always about having a lot of money to start a business, right? Because you can start very small and put sweat equity in. And obviously, it depends on what you're doing, but service-based businesses typically are a lower barrier to entry, and you can. So anyway, so part of my story, I was cutting lawns and having a lawn care business, and in fact, I started uh, a lawn and landscape business with my brother-in-law, with my wife's brother, and he still runs it. I lasted about 6 months, got chased by hornets, and I said, "This isn't for me," and I walked away from that. I mean, in a good sense, right? But again, knowing part of why I'm talking in this video, knowing who you are, and that was my realization after about 6 months of starting a venture that was producing cash flow and was earning money, but also realizing I am not going to be happy with myself doing this for the long term. It just isn't me. It doesn't fit. I need to be with people. I need to be around around people. I can't be out um, cutting lawns all day, and that's not going to fulfill me. So, um, yeah, think for yourself. I challenge you to pause the process where you're doing what everybody else is doing, what you've been told is the thing to do. Think about who you are as an individual and what has God called you to do. And yes, being an individual and thinking for yourself, you're going to have some resistance because you are supposed to do this. That's what society says. That's what everybody. This is the like the least friction. The and then thinking for yourself is going to cause you to be a bit of an odd duck, right? People will look at you and go, "Oh, why aren't you doing that? Everybody's doing this. Why aren't you doing this?" And yeah, you have to be okay with that, and you have to know in your heart, right? And again, I'm not talking about some weird rebellious, like, well, I'm going to always do something different than what everybody does, right? Because there's a lot of wisdom in some of the collective things. There's a lot of principles that are based in wisdom that, but they're not always, the wisdom principles are not always followed by the crowd, right? There's just, sometimes it's marketing, sometimes it's, in fact, I really, if you think about our whole college, I don't know what to call it, but colleges are crazy expensive, and we're told everybody needs to go there, regardless of a plan or not. You just go get your 4 years, you come out of there with a nice big debt load, and good luck, have fun in life, right? So, um, think about that, and yes, think for yourself. I hope this helped you. So, comment. Are you one of those? Have you struggled with following the crowd? All right, we'll see you in the next one.